before we continue our conversation is I'm going to welcome everyone in to our weekly episode of Sustainable Brain, Conversation for Leadership. We are here again talking with Dr. Sunita, the brain coach. And good afternoon. It's wonderful to see you again.
It's great to see you too, Kristi.
And I'm so glad we're here together. And today we have another special guest and business owner, Monica Del Campo. Monica, how are you?
Wonderful, Kristi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Good.
So here we are. And today's topic, while it moves around a little bit, we're focusing on serving the community through our professional services. And Monica, you provide a professional service in our community. And I know Dr. Sunita and I have talked several times back and forth how, each day, whether it's through COVID or just any regular day, we have to pull ourselves together and focus and serve whoever comes in front of us or whoever has a need. And tell us a little bit about kind of your background and how you feel about that.
Okay, thank you, Kristi. Thank you so much for having me. So a little bit about my background. I have been in the insurance industry for over 20 years now. And I recently opened up my own State Farm agency 5 years ago in 2015.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So it has been a humongous, wonderful opportunity because the platform they give me to serve the community and my team members, my customers, is just something I've never had before.
Mm-hmm.
So I am married, been married 21 years, and I have 2 children.
Yeah.
Angel, my son, is 16, and Annalisa, she's 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm originally from El Paso, Texas, born and raised all my life, and we moved here 12 years ago.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yes.
So, and who's been your biggest influence over the years?
My biggest influence has been my husband. Gabe is such a hard worker. He has this work ethic, this discipline about him that really motivates me and it makes me move. So he has definitely been not only, a loving, loyal husband, a wonderful dad, but he's been a very big influence and mentor for me.
And I think that's important as a business owner. We always talk about being surrounded by people who support us and love us. But in your own house, that's where you have to start in order to make that happen and push forward.
Oh, yeah. He's always, if he's not 30 minutes early, he's late. And I joke around with him and I call him perfect attendance because I don't think he's ever missed a day of work. He is always that person that you can depend on.
Wow.
So sometimes
That's
if
wonderful.
I'm working from home, he's like, I think you should go to the office today. Shouldn't you go to the office?
Are you trying to get rid of me?
Yes.
Yeah. No, he definitely understands what it takes, all the effort. And then that is what our kids learn in the end. They learn from what you do, the actions that you take. We always wish they could learn from what we're saying to them, but it's those actions that we take.
This is so true. Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Sunita, you have a question?
Yes. And Monica, we were, so the topic today was really about how serving turns into our profession and why that's so important. We look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If anyone's familiar with them, the top of the hierarchy is self-actualization. And Dr. Abraham Maslow said that most people don't reach that. We're always trying to meet basic needs, which is survival based, food, shelter. And Kristi and I have talked about entrepreneurs who turn that upside down. And when they pursue the higher self,
Mhm.
And really it boils into taking your job, your profession, your company, your business, and turning it into a way of being self-actualized. And it sounds like you've done that. Like for you, your business and what you do is the way you serve. A lot of people separate ministry from their profession, and it can be brought together. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you, doctor, I rely on my faith 100% of the time when things are stressful. That's who I go to first. I pray about making a big decision. I give myself time to think about it, meditate on it before I make an emotional decision or a rash decision that I'll regret later.
Mhm.
So, one thing I've learned is don't act on your emotions. So, I go to my faith and I rely on mentors that have experienced things that I'm going through to help me get over that or making that right decision, the best decision I could possibly make.
That's awesome. That's really
Mhm.
awesome. And there's research actually, Monica, that shows
Yes.
the brain will hit all it can do, and belief in something bigger than yourself. Now, and I'm not telling anybody what to believe. If you worship a tree, that's fine. If whatever it is, my mom is from India. She has certain beliefs. My brother has different beliefs. But I can tell you as a scientist, when you can believe something bigger than yourself, you're able to bypass that. And that's what it sounds like. You believe there's an intelligent designer maybe that supports you. Is that correct? And that's
Yes, absolutely. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And this is the path that I am taking for a reason. This is the path I'm taking for a reason. This happened to teach me something.
see, and that's Kristi, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Kristi, you have a view that the world, things are happening for me. And I do think that that is because you also have this faith life. As a scientist, what I can tell you is the research tells us that we can actually be still, and that's where we can be innovative, because if we're panicking, which is the brain's first impulse, but then when we can be still because we have a belief in something, it is working for us rather than against us, we can
Mhm.
actually bypass the wiring, and that's the science of it. So exactly what you were saying, Kristi, you have this unique view, and I see that, Monica, and you share that.
Oh,
No, absolutely. When I met Monica, gosh, several years ago, I know it's been more than 4 years ago,
yes.
and we were able to get into this conversation very quickly. And it's funny because we always talk about how many times, and unfortunately, women don't support women. But sometimes when you get that conversation going and you just see those things clicking, it's like, yes, oh my gosh, you believe in that. And yes, I am on that track too. And it's not, we do have to make sure that our audience knows it's not that things are perfect in any way,
No way.
or that we haven't gone through loss or haven't been impacted by COVID or money issues. That's not it. It's just in how we deal with it. It's how we approach that problem. And we know that we're going to get out of it. We're determined, we're focused. It's just, okay, so I had to dip into my savings, or I had to move some things around, or I really needed to be somewhere and I couldn't. Okay, we can overcome.
Yeah, we're all talking about herd immunity. You guys have heard with the virus, with COVID, there's
Oh,
herd
yes.
immunity, right? Where
Yes.
eventually we're all going to be immune. It works the same way with our brains. We actually, if we surround ourselves with other people, and the way to do that is like Monica, you said that you look for role models that you want to emulate.
Yes.
during your, when you sit there and you're still and I also hear gratitude in what you're talking. That's a very powerful
Oh my God.
emotion. And maybe we can put it on the Facebook chat box, or I can download the frequency of emotions and gratitude, Monica, which you seem to practice,
Oh
is
yes.
a very powerful, it's one of the most powerful emotions. It's at the fastest frequency.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Doctor. Gratitude is everything. I was just having a conversation with my son yesterday, and we were on our way to donate blood. It was his first time. And he's told me, Mom, sometimes I feel sad. Like I've been feeling sad lately. Every day is the same. It's the same day. It just repeats itself.
Yeah.
So I told him, you know what? Whenever you feel that way, open up to me, talk to me. And we could go out for a walk together. We could go to the mall together. Of course, social distancing. But the thing I told him is, Angel, you know what? You've got to be grateful for what you have. Like grandma, she lives alone and she's in El Paso. We can't visit her. She's 80 years old. She's a diabetic. Imagine how grandma feels. Let's be grateful that we have each other, son. You have your dad, your sister, and myself. You're not alone. We're always with you. So, focusing on the good and what we do have is something that I do every single day. Like this happened, but it could be worse. Let's focus on what I do have.
That's excellent. That's really powerful. And it's so simple. When you hear it as a business owner, you think, oh yeah, I got that. I know that. Be grateful, positive thinking. But what you're really talking about, Monica, when we look at it at the neuroscience level, there's the brain's propensity is to fire a negative way, to think negative. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
It's our wiring, and it's there to protect us. So when you focus on what's right, you are actually stopping an electrical. I want you to imagine the electricity is being halted, and you're redirecting your thought. And everybody asks me, the brain is plastic. Tell us about neuroplasticity. This is neuroplasticity. This is you rewiring your brain and choosing the direction, because
Yep.
we can choose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he automatically felt way better.
Yeah.
And we started thinking about other things that he could do. And, why don't we finish up your driver's ed and break the monotony of your
Yes.
daily routine? How about you're 16 now? Maybe you should consider applying for a job for the summer.
Yeah.
So things like that.
Yes. So, one of the things I wanted to ask, and I think you answered it, what things do you do, or what do you tell yourself when things aren't going well? And I think you answered that question.
Yes.
Is there any? Yes, go ahead.
I always am forever the optimist. If things aren't going well, I always think this is just one chapter in my life. This isn't forever. As soon as this chapter is over, another chapter will begin and things will be different. So for me, it's so important to think that this is just temporary, and that helps me get through it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Again, it's not the natural, Monica, I want you to understand, that's not the brain's natural wiring. The natural wiring is, woe is me, the world is going to fall apart, my life is falling apart. It's the economy's fault. It's Kristi's fault. I know it's all Kristi's fault. And that's the wiring. So for you to choose, that's really, believe it or not, it does take an effort. And I think you answered the second question too. I was going to ask you is, when you start to, what is your strategy to boost your mood? And I think you answered that too. I think you're talking about asking, well, what, it could be worse, right? And then
Right.
that spirit of gratitude sets in.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. And I do other things that boost my mood. Like, for example, if I'm feeling down in the dumps and I see that Kristi's got this wonderful webinar, I'll join it to distract me, to listen to something that will teach me and distract me and focus, change your focus.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I love that. I love listening to leaders like Kristi and
Oh,
yourself.
thank you.
I just absolutely thrive on that. Whether it's a book on Audible or a Joel Osteen book, those are the type of things that really cheer me up.
Mm-hmm.
That's
No,
excellent.
that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I started a new book just last week, and I'm trying to get through it. So, just in that mood, it's called A Fool's Errand by Lonnie Bunch III.
Ooh, let
And
me write that down.
A Fool's Errand, and the man's name is Lonnie Bunch III. So he created the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And he starts the book as he takes this on, and he was already very well accomplished, and just this monumental task that he had to take on. And he narrates it, so I really love it even that much more. And he has a wonderful calm voice, and he talks about how it's so monumental and how so many people were counting on him. And piece by piece, he literally just, every artifact, every outreach that he made meant so much to him. And he poured his heart and soul. And today, when you go visit DC and you go into the mall and see this beautiful building, and he said the biggest credit, the biggest return, and how he feels the love is when all people come in there and say, whether they are African American, whether they are Hispanic or Asian or of any descent, and they say, you know what, that was life changing. That made a difference to me. I had no idea
Wow.
that this was going on. So very profound. I'm only a little less than halfway through. So I'm just excited to every time I open that book back up.
Wonderful. I love that.
But Dr. Sunita, I want to ask you something. For those people who cannot, maybe they just don't want to be positive, and they have a hard time moving into this as business owners. We are now in yet another shutdown of these bars and a few other businesses. People have to make adjustments. Is there another go-to? Is there something else? I know I was listening to something maybe 2 weeks ago that talked about that feeling when you're in love, that there's science to it, and that gives you this euphoric feeling that you can do anything, and that is the cause of many relationships flourishing, but also ending, because once you get out of that feeling, then your partner says, who are you? You're not the person that I met. Could you kind of maybe describe the science behind that feeling?
Yeah, definitely. And there's two parts to this answer. So the brain looks for a temporary fix. And so it's the first response is to not want to be positive, like you were saying. It's very hard. I'm not, and Christina, you and I have had candid conversations. Neither one of us claim to be perfect.
Right.
And idealism, though, so here's the second part of that. The second part is idealism is not just good for the masses, or it's not just positive thinking. Logically, and this is how you move from just not wanting to think it, let's be logical about it, because the brain is very logical.
Mhm.
So you have a belief and you feel stuck and you just don't want to do anything, or you want to stay with it. And it really is comfortable, believe it or not, because it's a temporary, to panic allows the anxiety to temporarily drop. But if we stay in panic, eventually it's like a narcotic. You can have a drink and temporarily you're a little intoxicated, but the side effect of alcohol is depression. But immediately it makes you feel woozy and everybody's good and you don't think so much. And thinking is like that. Thinking in a direction that is panic oriented or is just, I don't want to do anything. I'm not motivated to think, to take action. That is, it is addictive. So the next thing is, let's be logical. So Kristi and I've talked about this before. We're not telling you to be idealistic. You don't have to be like Monica Campo, okay? And some of you may think, well, she's Miss Campo's got it going on. She just thinks right, and I'll never do that. Okay, let's suppose you don't. Here's what I'm going to tell you. As a scientist, your brain is logical though. So if you can question the thought that you are holding on to that provides you temporary comfort, but you feel stuck, okay, you feel like you don't want to move, you're afraid, you're paralyzed, you're just not going to, make that change. Question the thought. Put it on the stand. It's a Socratic methods. That's what we do in the court of law. If we have someone that says something, we put it on the stand. Put your thought on the stand, logical. Next question, ask the thought. Ask yourself, is that thought totally true? So let's say, even if I save money, even if I be service oriented like Kristi and Monica and Dr. Punjabi's, what if I, it's not going to change. Nothing's going to change. All right. Let's just say that, and that's kind of extreme, but let's say, now, is that true?
No.
Is it true that no matter what you do, you could never have results, that it's not going to change? It's always going to be woe is me. There's just the world. It's fatalist. Is it true? No, it's not always true. Logical answer, right? The third question, very important. How do you act when you hold that belief? Because one of the reasons, Kristi, people don't change is because they are unaware of the cost of holding a belief.
Mm-hmm.
We are numb to the cost. The belief could be bankrupt.
Yes.
It's not producing any results. However, we do not figure in the consequences, and the way to figure in the consequences is the fourth question. Who would I be? What would I do if I could not have this belief? So if I couldn't think the thought that the world is, there's no point, humanity is on the way down the tubes, right? We're seeing, what is it? Man's inhumanity to man at its worst, right? If that's, what is the cost of that? Like, and the way to know, what if you couldn't think that? And a lot of my clients will tell me, well, and I have a great young girl who, size 1, she thought she was fat. She had trained herself to think she was fat. So I said, what if you couldn't have the belief that you were fat? What if you couldn't believe that? And I mean, she's so thin, it's a distorted self-image. And so when she said, well, I dance more. I'd wear makeup. I'd wear different clothes. She wouldn't wear baggy clothes because she just felt unattractive. So what's interesting is, if she didn't have that belief, she would actually do all the things so she could know that she's beautiful.
Yeah.
1 size 22, whatever. She's beautiful. But the belief was holding her prisoner, and she didn't realize about the consequence. So the question is, what would you be without that belief? And that brings to your awareness the cost. The last question, now that you know the cost of that belief, is the opposite belief true? Okay, humanity is on the way up. Everything's going to be great. We're going to have an economy that's going to bounce back in no time. We're going to see miracles in the economy. Now, is that totally true? No. And truly, then here's the best thing: choose. You get to choose. Neither one of those statements, the negative version of the positive, pass the test. We don't know either one of them for certain. So then you choose. And this is a very, very logical approach to thinking. So Monica is an example. She can think about, woe is me, I just moved into San Antonio, I don't know anybody. She chose to believe that I'm going to make friends. I'm in a new city. She changed industries. She chose to believe that I'm going to find a way to serve with this. Those were all chosen beliefs. Now, she could have definitely chosen, wow, who's going to want to talk to me? You know, insurance isn't always easy.
Right.
But she chose to look at it a certain way, and it was a choice. So you were very, actually, Monica, you're not as idealistic as you think. You're quite logical. So does that answer that question, Kristi?
Yes. I think that gives people a different perspective. They can see different points of view. And Monica, you know, our time is pretty much almost up. I have to tell you how much I respect and appreciate your resilience, your faith, your focus on family. But we cannot leave today without recognizing, I know you have several pets, but there's one in particular that is like his own little superstar. And that's probably what, as we, you know, sometimes we have our good days and bad days. And I know that if I have a bad day, I can always go to your Facebook page
Oh,
and see
Kristi.
this little guy and y'all's conversation or whatever he chooses to do on that day. And it is the most hilarious and uplifting thing I've seen. So
I love it.
just very briefly tell us a little bit about him.
Oh, his name is Teddy, and he's 9 years old. And we actually found him, and we tried to look for his owner. We took him to the vet. Turns out the owners moved away to Houston and gave him to someone else. So we couldn't really find who he belonged to. And we kept him, and we've been loving him. He is an absolute sweetheart. He is what has kept my daughter going. So they're in love with each other. They are just BFFs. And I think we all need a little Teddy in our lives.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's just, his big personality just comes out. It definitely pops out. So you guys might, you know, you got to tell your daughter they could be the next internet sensation.
Oh, I've heard that before. So
yes, so we definitely need that. Well, before we go, I want to make sure, please give us your final thoughts. I mean, look out there to our audience, our business owners, our community leaders, and just give them your parting message, you know, on what you wish for them, and maybe we can push them to do something new and different.
okay, well, I have we are all going through this together, right? We're all alone together. So I feel like, you know, it takes a village to raise kids. It takes a village, even as business owners. We need each other. So one thing I always remember is, I'm going to read this from my phone. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that's our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. And that's a quote by Charles Swindoll. And that's exactly what the doctor's been telling us. You choose, you get to choose. And I choose joy. And if you guys need help, just call me. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. No, thank you. That's beautiful. Dr. Sunita, will you please share something with as we depart our weekly episode?
Yes, remember that we're physically separated, but we are not emotionally separated. Reach out to your friends. Find it's a great way to serve. Kristi and I talk. She's a great friend for me. So yeah, that would be my last message.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And to everyone out there, thank you for joining us. Please share this video with others that you think might want to hear this, or maybe that need to hear this. And don't forget, we really are in this together. Please reach out to any one of us if you need some help, if you just need to talk, or if you need a resource as a business owner, and if you need that support. And at the end of the day, we ask you, please take care of each other. Put on your mask as you go out into the world. We need a little less anger and a little more focus and happiness so we can unite and conquer anything together. We will see you next week. The West San Antonio Chamber is always here for you. Please check out our website and our Facebook page for more information. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much and have a great day.